To the White House now, President Trump personally dictated his son's first explanation about his campaign meeting with the Russian lawyer. That's according to a report on the front page of this morning's Washington Post. The paper says the president directed his son to say the meeting was primarily about Russian adoption. It was later revealed that Trump Jr.'s statement was misleading, telling only part of the story. The president reportedly crafted his son's comments aboard Air Force One, returning home from the G20 summit in Germany. That runs contrary to what we heard from Mr. Trump's personal lawyer after news of the meeting first surfaced.
Can you tell me about the reports that the president was involved in the initial response that Donald Trump Jr. gave the New York Times?
So I read those reports as well, and the president did not draft the response. The response came from Donald Trump Jr., and I'm sure in consultation with his lawyer.
Did the president get a heads up on the statement? Did he sign off on the statement? Was he asked to read the statement before it was given to the New York Times on Air Force One?
No, I mean, I can't say whether the president was told a statement was going to be coming from his son on that. I don't have that. I didn't have that conversation. And let me say this. The president, but I do want to be clear, the president was not involved in the drafting of the statement and did not issue the statement. It came from Donald Trump Jr. So that's what I can tell you, because that's what we know.
Ed O'Keefe is a CBS News political contributor and a reporter for The Washington Post. He joins me now from our Washington bureau. Thanks for joining us, Ed.
Good to see you, Meg.
I want to start by getting you to weigh in on this reporting from your colleagues. What questions does these revelations raise, and what are the potential implications?
Well, I think what it demonstrates more than anything, it's great reporting by my colleagues, is that the president remains intimately involved in virtually all aspects of this investigation, and this helps fill out our understanding of really how concerned he remains about this and how much he sees this as a drag on what he's trying to do at the White House. There's nothing illegal about misleading the press. There was nothing illegal with him being involved in this, but as my colleagues reported, there are a lot of people around the president, a lot of other legal observers who believe he shouldn't be involved in this, that's why Donald Trump Jr. hired attorneys. That's why the president has attorneys. That's why he has spokespeople, so that they can be crafting these decisions. And the president himself should want, and probably should be, staying out of the details of this so that he doesn't get further mired in the ongoing investigations. But I think more than anything, this demonstrates that the president is still very concerned about this and seems to think that he can run this the way he's probably run his family business for decades. Involved in the dirty details, making sure that the statements all line up, and really managing all expectations and appearances of what he and his family are up to.
Well, speaking of that, sources tell your paper that the president is, quote, increasingly acting as his own lawyer, strategist, and publicist, often disregarding the recommendations of the professionals he has hired. How problematic is that for the White House, especially during a time when a new chief of staff is taking over?
Well, it's problematic if politically it begins to show in the approval ratings. If people get a sense that the president is more concerned about his own legal standing and not as concerned about the country itself, that's going to drag on his approval ratings and his support. And we've seen some softening of it this week in some polls that were released on Monday that demonstrate that he's beginning to see erosion of support, even among his most devoted supporters, especially in southern states and across the Republican Party. So that's another reason why, if you're somebody who works for him or supports him, you would want him to stop doing this, because the more he is focused on keeping the economy in good shape or addressing the global concerns of North Korea and others, and working with Republican lawmakers perhaps on tax reform or health care, that can help shore him up and sort of distract from what obviously for him is an understandable distraction.
As we all know by now, the president's new chief of staff, General Kelly, on his first day fired Anthony Scaramucci as the communications director. Is that a sign that a real reset is happening here?
Absolutely, because now you've cleared out in the last 10 days or so the three most controversial staffers that he's had, at least in recent weeks: the former chief of staff, Reince Priebus, the press secretary, Sean Spicer, and now the guy that was supposed to become communications director, Anthony Scaramucci. And Kelly, by coming in on the first day, laying down the law and making very clear that he's in charge and everybody reports to him, and finding that there was just one guy who was unwilling to do that and then dismissing him, I think will certainly send a message across the administration and across Washington that Kelly is in charge. The question for him more than anything going forward will probably be, to what extent does the president take his advice and try to, again, get away from stories about the legal and scandalous troubles of the president and his family and focus more on policy and foreign affairs. Kelly clearly eager to come in, exert his influence, and try to right the ship and calm down a West Wing that's been anything but smooth in the first 7 months of the presidency.
Ed, the White House is now saying that every member of the president's staff reports to General Kelly, even family members. That is a big new development. How do you see that working out?
Well, let's see if it holds. But if Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner especially are willing to do this, I think it's a sign that they understand this is needed and that they're willing to try it. Whether they're willing to keep that going past the summer and into the fall remains to be seen. And I think that demonstrates, first and foremost, that the family has trust in General Kelly and that they believe he will be able to right the ship and refocus the White House. And, you know, look, inevitably we're going to hear that Ivanka Trump especially perhaps is able to get in there and bypass Mr. Kelly over the course of the day or for whatever reason. And that's understandable. She's an offspring. And that makes sense. But for everyone else, especially people like Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway, if they fall into line under Kelly, I think that really will demonstrate that he does have total command of the West Wing at this point.
Do you think Steve Bannon's job is safe?
Seems like it, because he didn't seem to fight Kelly's orders yesterday that he's in charge. And so if he's willing to do that, you know, then that's a good sign. Remember, chiefs of staff have always existed, and there's always been some other senior figure in the West Wing that pretty much has door privileges, somebody who can go into the Oval Office without telling the chief of staff. For Barack Obama, clearly, it was Valerie Jarrett. For George W. Bush, it was either somebody like Karen Hughes or Karl Rove, two people who had been with him since he was governor, since he was running for governor of Texas. Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, they all had people like that beyond family members. And the chief of staff just has to know who those people are, why they may stop by, and make sure that they're aware that they were there at all.
All right. Ed O'Keefe of The Washington Post, thanks for your time.
Take care, Meg.